So today I have for you my controller and camera settings for FIFA 23. This worked for old gen and new gen, so let's get into the video. For cheap FIFA 23 coins, make sure to check out MMOEXP.com to get fast and reliable coins, and make sure you use code VIPER at checkout, get yourself a 5% discount. Alright guys, so starting us off with game settings, I want to do this first. Obviously this is camera settings. A lot of people do ask me about my camera settings, so I'm going to go over them now real quick. There's not too much to these, to be fair. They're very bog standard and simple. So let's go into the camera settings. So this is what I use for old gen and new gen. It's just tele broadcast. I did used to play a lot of classic and dynamic back in the day. That dynamic back in like FIFA 06. Classic more so maybe just before I was competing like FIFA 16 and 17. But tele broadcast is the best in my opinion. The one I like the most, but all default for camera settings as well. You know, if you want to change these at all in terms of customizing them, you can, absolutely no problem there. And then what we also do have in the camera settings is obviously the power shot zoom. I think it's really important that you turn this off. I think the power shot is really, really good on this game. There's a specific way you can use it that makes it really, really good, and that's obviously going to be cancelling it. So if you guys want to see a video on my favourite cancels on the game, make sure you drop a like on this video. And if you're not subscribed, make sure you do subscribe. We've got lots of content coming, lots of good content for you guys to help get better at the game. Lots of player reviews and lots of custom tactics. But yeah guys, that is my camera settings. There's nothing else here to change. As I said, if you want to change the camera settings to custom and then have a little fiddle around here and see what you can come up with, go for it. But these are my favourite. Now, as we move over to the controller settings, first of all, the competitive master switch, you want to actually turn this on and then turn it off. And you can see here that all of these are set to off other than assisted headers. So there's a glitch, or last year there was a glitch with the competitive master switch. If you turned it off and then put what you wanted on in the settings here, say for example assisted headers, which is what I want, turn that on and then turn on the competitive master switch, even though it now says off on the assisted headers, it actually stays on in game, which is really, really cool. And it's something that I use. It's a bit of a glitch, but you guys might want to test that out. Now guys, we're going to go from the bottom to the top. So if you're on next gen, the trigger effect and vibration feedback, turn these off. They're really not very good. They're supposed to be immersive, and they're cool for career mode maybe, but when you're coming into a competitive setting or you're playing champs, you do not want either of these on. What ends up happening is you'll come to like the 80th minute and your players are low on stamina, and your triggers are going to be harder to actually press in, and it just doesn't work. It's not good. In fact, it just causes problems, you know, so make sure you do have both of these turned off. I don't like vibration on FIFA either. Same as when I used to play Call of Duty competitively, I'd always turn off the vibration. I always felt better with the vibration off, so I highly recommend you turn both of these off. Now, as we move up to the pass receiver lock, this is one that I want to talk about for a bit of time because I think it's really important. By default, this is set on late, so that means that you can change your pass quite often just before the ball is kicked. But what ends up happening on this game, there's a lot of delay, so you'll end up putting it somewhere and then it'll end up going somewhere else anyway. So animation start isn't very good. I don't like the animation start one. I just don't know when that's gonna kick into effect. So I have it on power up, which is the latest you can have it, or the earliest, I think. Yeah, the earliest, sorry. And what that's going to allow you to do, as soon as you've pressed the X button, you put where you want to pass the ball to, it's going to lock into that place, which I think is really effective because when I've had it on late, because there's a lot of delay and a lot of players take extra touches that you don't expect them to, on old gen and new gen, I would highly recommend you put this on power up so you don't have that issue anymore. And that is why I like that. I've always changed my pass receiver lock every single FIFA. It's been set to late every single year by default, but I always put it on early. I feel like this year it's more important to have this on early than any year before. They've also changed what it looks like in terms of what the early one looks like. So it was always late. That was one of the options on FIFA 22, FIFA 21 and FIFA 20. And the other option was early. So now we've got animation start, which is like a middle ground. Then you've got power up. That is the earliest, of course. So have this on power up. And I'm sure, guys, once you learn this, and it might take you a few games to get used to it, but it's so much better than what it is set to by default. So analog sprint, I've never had on either. I don't really think this is important. I think it actually is a bit of a detriment to you if you do play with it on. Save assistance, this is very, very irrelevant. Lob through pass assistance is on semi, so it kind of helps you a little bit. Instead of it just going fully manual, you don't want manual on anything on this game, even though it probably should be. Everything should be manual by default, in my opinion. But having this on semi will help you out as well. Lob pass assistance, exactly the same there as well. Semi on that one. And then cross assistance is actually on assisted. So this is very good for the crosses that you do holding a skill move first. So if, let's say, for example, you do a ball roll into a cross, this is going to help you out with this. So having this on will mean it will lock to the player in the box better. And I don't know if you guys know or not, but as soon as you do a skill move into a cross, it lasers it into your striker's feet. So assisted really helps with that as well. And make sure you're doing a skill move before you actually do cross the ball. Then we've got shot assistance is on assisted as well. You know, if you can get any help with your shots, that's nice. But I wouldn't put this on anything else. Manual, obviously not. Semi, you know, so it's okay. But assisted, you want some help where you can. And that is why we've got a lot of these on assisted. And the number one most important thing to change in your game settings this year, other than the pass receiver lock, is going to be the right stick switching. So this is set by default on adaptive. And what that means is you've got like a little line that comes out when you're trying to play a switch with the right stick. And what that ends up doing is it actually makes you lag in game. Like you drop frames when this is on adaptive and you're trying to right stick switch. Classic is the best because you don't get the FPS lag. The actual line thing that's on adaptive as well is very glitchy, regardless of the fact that it makes you lag. You know, just actually trying to switch with it is really glitchy and doesn't work as purposed. So definitely take this off adaptive. It is so important to take it off adaptive so you won't have the FPS lag or just the glitchy player switching. Classic is really good. And then for the player rotation, this is flicking right stick will move to the next player switch indicator, but will not switch the player. Press L1 to switch the player, so it's not really very good. Classic is the best one for you and the one that works every single year. And is the one that's on usually every single year. Icon switching, I've never had this on. I don't know why it's there. You know, I've never actually had that on at all, so it's completely up to you on that one. While defending, press the right stick to trigger icon switch and then flick right stick in direction corresponding to the player you wish to switch to. I've never had that on. I don't even know what difference that is to actually right stick switching, but that is there if you want to turn that on, but I wouldn't recommend putting it on, even though EA do recommend it. Player lock is the next one. This one is not recommended, which is ridiculous. If you're trying to get up the divisions and you're trying to get the best ranks in FUT champs, player lock is really important and you should try and learn this. Player lock is obviously the thing where you hold down the left stick and the right stick, you actually press them in, and you can flick the right stick to the player you want to run with or to receive the ball. And it works really well if you're down the byline and you player lock in somebody on the box. Just kind of change their position so you can get the ball to their feet easier. Player lock is really important, as I said, and will improve your game if you can learn it and put it on. So I'd highly recommend putting this one on as well. Clearance assistance on classic. Auto switch move assistance is on high, which is important. Auto switching is important on air balls and loose balls as well. Don't change this to anything else. Definitely not manual, definitely not on loose balls. Definitely want it on both air balls and loose balls for that one. Pass block assistance. Just have what you see here for this one, guys. Next player switch indicator I like having on as well. And then time finishing. For some reason, this is not recommended, which is just ridiculous. Time finishing is going to improve your game tenfold. If you can learn to time finish, you can take shots from angles that wouldn't go in if you didn't time finish. And this is a real big skill gap on FIFA every single year. Well, it wasn't in FIFA 21, but on FIFA 22 it was a massive skill gap. On FIFA 23 it is also a massive skill gap. You can take finesse shots from wherever you want. You can do travellas from wherever you want as well. And you can shoot on players' weak foots and still trust them. So like Rashford's 3-star weak foot, when I time finish with him, it turns into like a 5-star weak foot. So that is why I like having time finishing on. It's definitely a skill gap and it will definitely improve you if you do have this on. And then the last two guys are FIFA Trainer, which obviously I want to hide, and then Through Pass Assistance Semi, so this will give you a little bit of help when you are doing through balls, which is nice to have on there as well. Guys, those are my controller and camera settings. Let me know if you guys would change anything. Let me know if these work for you. I highly recommend. The most important ones to change are obviously the time finishing and then the right stick switch. And probably the most important one is the right stick switch. And then of course we have the pass receiver lock, which I like to have a power up. And I'd recommend you change it to all of these settings as well, guys. These will help you out, but sometimes, you know, I'm not always right, but this is what works for me. And obviously I competed a few years ago and I've always had this on the earliest it can be. Always had time finishing on, and I think the right stick switching is actually new. So make sure you keep that on classic, guys. That will help you out a lot. But guys, if you did enjoy today's video, Make sure you leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell so you don't miss a video. But guys, that's going to be it from me for now, so take care.